And here we are, back at you again. What's up, everybody? My name is Ian Martin Allison, coming to you with a special Q&A solo pod episode of the Scott and Ian Show. It's just the Ian Show today. Listen, we did this crazy event. I've talked about it before, but it bears repeating. We did this thing. I got a nose. I got an itch. I got an itch. If you're watching the podcast, my apologies. If you're not, I just spared you. I spared you a ghastly sight. Ever get just the gnarliest itch in your nose? I got all kinds of nose issues, guys. I've got such a gnarly deviated septum. Check it out. If I plug this nostril and I try to pull air in, I can't do it, and I could die. I have to sleep on a pillow that pushes my face out like this so that I can actually pull air in. It's not pretty. It's not easy being me. Is it easy being you? It's not easy being me. I make do. I make do, dude, and we move on. Listen, I also have this door wide open right here. It might be echoey. Hear this. You hear that? You actually hear that sick plate reverb? It's actually because I've been in the process of moving. We moved about 10 miles away to the lovely suburb, Western Metro, lovely suburb of Minnetonka. You know, where Prince tells you to jump in the lake to cleanse yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. I'm not on the lake. Look, I'm not that fancy, all right? But we did buy a house out in Minnetonka, and it is great. And so we moved most of our stuff, right? Now, I still have some stuff here. I'm seeing a headstock peek out. I have a couple of basses still here. Havilah, English language, Allison. Look at this. I've got this Lakeland Joe Osborne. Now, if you're not watching the pod, I have a Lakeland Joe Osborne jazz bass in white tortoiseshell pickguard maple neck with black blocks and binding. Come on. This bass was made for me in 2006 when I was doing some freelance work for Lakeland. Anyway, I have it here today because I've taken a bunch of my other basses over to the new space, but I'm going to answer some questions. I feel like I'm all over the place today, but I'm feeling good, you guys. I'm feeling good. We did this event called Bass Space, right? Bass Space 2022. It was a 3-day event. It was amazing. We had so many different bass players joining us. We did fun interviews. There were people that did sessions and master classes. Then we had these super fun VIP hangs, all kinds of different players. And I mean, it was a lot of work. Not going to lie. A lot of work. Shout out to the team at SBL. Shout out to Lydia and Nick. Those are the first two that came to mind, but there's so many others. Obviously, Scott, that did so much work for that event. It was amazing. And I did an event. I'm looking at my phone here because I have the notes. I promise that I'm not texting my friends, my girlfriend, aka my wife, not texting my wife. I'm looking because I had all of these people that asked questions about my session. I did a thing called Getting Creative in the Studio with Effects. And I probably get asked questions about effects and the things that I use and the things that I do on records in the studio. I probably get asked on Instagram several times a day, every single day. And especially if I post content that has something to do with effects, I get asked so many questions. So I thought, and in real time, as I was going through and demonstrating all that stuff, your boy likes to talk. Am I a talker? I am a talker, right? And so I got to the end and we were on really strict time constraints. So it's not like I could go an hour 20, even though I wanted to go an hour 20, couldn't go an hour 20, had to keep it tight to an hour, right? So at the end I was like, and I burned through a couple of questions with Scott as he read them off to me. But I thought today, I'm going to do my best to get through all of these questions, of which there are many. I'm going to try to say your names too and shout you out. And hopefully if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear your name and you'll hear your question. But am I a liar? Hey, Ian, are you a liar? No, I'm not a liar. I'm going to keep my word. You know what I said? Oh, another nose tickle. I'm so sorry. You know what I said? I said, listen, I'm going to get to these questions somehow. I'm going to answer them on Instagram or I'm going to answer them on the podcast, something. And you know what? I'm doing that for you right now. We're going to answer these questions right now. I've got a bass. I'm plugged in, so I might even demonstrate a couple of things. Before we do it, let me just say this. I found my son's Lego. Oh, yeah. Did I? Yeah, I did. I found my son's Lego. He came in today and said to me, Dad, have you seen my Lego? His name is Dashel. He has the sweetest, smoky little voice. He goes, Dad. He has like a really low. He goes, Dad, you see my Lego piece? I said, buddy, what Lego piece you looking for? It's like a gray cylinder and it has a yellow top. And I said, no, Dashel, no. Like almost kind of like pissed. I mean, I wasn't pissed, but I was like, dude, come on. No, I haven't seen that Lego piece. And then he said, okay. And he left sad. And then later I looked down and it was on the floor. And now he's hanging out with my mom. My mom, shout out to my mom, who's hanging out with my kids right now. She's a great grandma. And I'm so pumped. You guys, I'm so pumped to give him this Lego piece because he was bumming. And I have it. Anyway, it's a good day. It's a good day. Look, I've got a pick. I might demonstrate some stuff with a pick. Got this cool bass. Got a little echoey room. Woo! And I'm ready to go. Let's get to these questions. Without further ado, here are the questions that you asked me on my Getting Creative with Effects seminar from Bass Space 2022. We're going to go for it. Here we go. From Rui, R-U-I, regarding different sounds. Are they too different in terms of volume? I need to be sure it doesn't blow up the PA or that I can't hear the lower volumed ones. I think I know what you mean. When you're running effects live or even in the studio and switching between them, how do you not set the volumes up so that you're not giving front of house a really crazy, big, huge volume jump when you kick on your octaver or when you kick on your distortion? It's a great question. And what I do for this is I have a meter back here. So if you're not watching the pod, I run everything through a Neve 1073 preamp. It's how I monitor. It's how I run everything. And so I just sort of look at the meter. Now, you don't need to use that. You could use a meter on any DAW, that's digital audio workstation for the layman. But you could use anything, really, any preamp that can kind of tell you what you're doing, because your ear actually will deceive you. Sometimes you'll play like a sound that has a bunch of low end content and you'll think, oh, that needs to be louder. But actually it's providing a ton of bottom sub energy that you can't maybe hear in your headphones or your amp or your speakers or whatever. And so really a meter is excellent, at least to get you close. And then obviously you'll tweak once you get on a gig or in a recording studio, but that's what I do. And so here, just check this out. Here's my bass, right? Now, if I kick on the octave sound that I'm using, if I look back at my meter, I like to see 4 lights light up, you guys. Listen. You might think, Ian, you've got it all together. I do not. I don't know about all this stuff, right? But I do know that when I see those 4 lights light up, that's about the same amount of output as if I play it without the effect. Right? And sometimes I would always set these octave sounds too loud. And I would get into a PA and I would turn it on and it would be huge and the sound guy would be like, ugh, and then trying to compress me. And there's this odd thing, and I've spoken about it before, where like there's a scene, like maybe the New York jazz scene or the LA jazz scene, or like guys like Jonathan Marin and Tim LaFave, where they're setting up pedals to create, or maybe even John Davis from Nerve, they're all setting up pedals to create these big moments. When they kick on a pedal, they don't want it to be the same volume as what they've been sending. They want to kick it on and have like a big PA melting moment, which is actually very cool. It's just not the world that I live in. So you just have to ask yourself, what world do you reside? If I did that on a gig with a singer-songwriter, like maybe Eric Hutchinson, who I play with, or like I play with this hip-hop artist named Dessa, and we're playing shows with very like particular sound people, right? Not somebody that's just like the house person or whatever. And look, maybe the baked potato or like the 55 bar has people that are very particular, but in all of my cases, when I would kick on a sound in a live environment, all of the front of house people wanted those levels to be very even. So I strive very hard to make that so. So no matter what I'm using, like, right, even if I use this sound, which sounds loud, if I turn on the volume on a bass, now this sound I use so much, but that's about the same amount of output as all the others. And like, with a drive. Now that sounds louder than that last sound, but it's providing way less bottom end content. So I find that switching from that back to this kind of thing, actually the output is very similar and it pleases people, either in the studio or live. So get yourself a meter, get yourself a meter either on a preamp or in a DAW, and play your sounds into that and then just adjust accordingly. I have a HX Stomp back here that I'm using for all these sounds right now, actually. And I just go into the menus and tweak. And you guys, sometimes half a dB makes a big difference, right? Like if something's just a little too hot, bump it back a half dB and it might sit it right into the mix for you. So I am realizing now that I need to hurry up because I could talk. Maybe I'll split this into 2 episodes because, oh man, I could talk about each one of these questions for so long. How about this? Johnny J asks, I feel blind when I try to use a pick. Any suggestions? Here's the thing with a pick. I play with a pick where I hold it between my thumb pad and my index finger pad. So many people actually hold it between their thumb pad and their index finger first knuckle. That's kind of the guitar grip. And to me, that's good for like kind of snappier sounding stuff, like played that too fast. But what I like to do is hold it between the 2 pads, pad of my thumb, pad of my first finger, and palm mute a little bit. And then the anchor of me palm muting feels really good to me. And what I'm always doing is going up and down in a 16th motion. So something that you can do is like take a scale, like I'm going to take a G major scale and I'm just going to play through it, but I'm going to play ghost notes on, I'm going to play, but then I'm going to play ghost 16th notes on all the others. It'll sound like this. Then you can do permutations. What if you play the 1E? So like, right? What I'm trying to say here is that all of your pick playing should line up in kind of a grid. And that's obviously, that's if you're playing sort of like rock and roll, R&B, kind of like Western music, right? But like take this, a great pick line to learn. Anthony Jackson, For the Love of Money, because it demonstrates that like relentless 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E thing that happens with your hand. I mean, I kind of treat it like Corey Wong. Right? And then I don't have to always put in chicka 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 in between. I could just play. But I know which divisions I'm playing an up pick and which divisions I'm playing a down pick from 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E, right? If I got rid of the ghost notes, it would still be the same because I know how I'm down and up picking. Hopefully that helps. Also, playing with a pick is awesome. Don't let anybody ever tell you that playing with a pick isn't awesome, because it's so awesome. Please do it. Next, Peter B. Do you often alternate fingers and pick in the same song? I sometimes fumble when I try to switch mid-song. I absolutely do. And hey, I've had a jingle rolling around in my head for a long time. It goes like this. There's a place on every bass to put your pick. Did you catch that? Would you like it again? There's a place on every bass to put your pick. So true. It's very true. On this bass, maybe there isn't. On a Fender bridge, putting it between the screw, the bridge screw and the string works really well. Obviously, there's the old pick guard situation, but now on this bass, as I say that, I'm not finding a good place to use my pick or to put my pick. Maybe there's not a place on it. Oh, well, no, not great. here's what I typically do. I typically have one on the top of my amp, or on my knee if I'm sitting down, or in my mouth, or stuck somewhere in the bass. Now I could probably, if I worked hard, wedge one into this pickguard. I'm not going to do that though. But figure out where to put it, and then honestly practice those transitions. I do a lot of stuff like for Instagram where I have a pick on my knee, right? And if I'm playing a line, then I grab the pick. Right? Fingers. Here's pick. Right? And so I pick sort of a transition point, and maybe, obviously I'm playing that in E, I play the low E, and then use that as the opportunity to grab the pick. But I actually think it's about practicing those transitions. Sometimes we think like, oh, we should just know how to do that stuff. Or like you see people do it and it seems so easy, but it's not easy. And sometimes those are the things. Something else is like stepping on pedals. That's hard to do. That, like, getting your pedal pushes and your switches correct and like not screwing that up live or in the studio, it's really hard. So I would say I do this gig simulator. Put yourself, like when you're preparing for your next gig, think about when you're going to pick up the pick, when you're going to put it down, right? And if you actually work on that, you'll find that will come easier when it's sort of like just haphazard. You know what I mean? Like when something happens and, you drop a pick or whatever, like having practiced it, it'll just start to come more naturally when it catches you by surprise. Yeah. Okay. Peter Hammond. Do you use a bass rig on stage or go direct to front of house? Holy crap. I just did a huge episode about this, podcast episode or two ago, where I talk about amp sims and amps, and you should just absolutely go check out that episode. But briefly, I'll say this. It depends on the situation. There are situations that I've done all of the options. To me, the options are you're playing with an amp behind you, no in-ears, or you're playing with only in-ears and no amp, or you're playing with both in-ears and an amp, and maybe you have wedges too, and that's amazing because maybe you get to pop an ear out, right, an in-ear monitor, and you've got sound coming from behind you, feel the notes. That's amazing. It completely depends, and you should get comfortable doing all of those things. Like, for instance, with Eric Hutchinson, it's all amps. It's no in-ears. So it's amps and big wedges, and it feels amazing, but my ears ring afterwards. So it's pros and cons, right? Oh yeah, I've tried to wear earplugs, but it takes away the vibe, and that sucks, right? So that is all that gig, right? Then for a while I was playing with Gavin DeGraw, and we did both big amp on stage and in-ears. Whoa, incredible. So fun. And then I've done a lot of stuff, like especially in churches, where it's just in-ears. And in the beginning, that felt really strange, but I got really used to it and actually ended up really loving it. I used in-ears from this company called All Claire. They're like 6-driver, not like the best top of the line, but I got used to them, and I love the way my bass sounds in them. Even now, like when I'm playing bass here on this podcast, I'm just getting it through my headphones, and it's cool. Like I don't expect there to be all this low end behind me. I think if you get used to only one thing and you only do that, it can be then very difficult to move to something else. But I would say if you have opportunities to do all of the things, do them, and don't look at them as like, oh, this is going to suck because it's only going to be a rig, or, oh, this is going to suck because it's only going to be in-ears. Like, learn how to do that. Just decide that lane is a new skill set that you have to learn. You have to get comfortable hearing your bass with in-ears. It's going to highlight a lot of your technical deficiencies. It sure did mine, right? And it's going to highlight, wow, like playing with just through a DI can sound pretty sterile and clinical. It pushed me into using a little bit of modeling, or like buying some really nice DIs so that I really liked my sound. Typically when I run a jazz bass into a DI, I roll the neck pickup back. I roll the bridge pickup back. And I love this sound. I'm comfortable with it. I could play a whole gig with that sound and I would be so happy. Totally happy. Cool. Let's move on. Beechwood Church says, Can we have a written out sequence of effects you are showing on this session? That doesn't really apply here. Look, here's the deal. My effect thing is very simple. I go compressor first, and then I run into any pitch stuff. So like whether I'm using external stuff like a 3-leaf audio or Boss or something, that is when I am using any octavers. And then I'll run into a fuzz. I have this 3-leaf fuzz that I love. And then I run into the multi-effects, which is a Line 6 HX Stomp. Out of that goes to the DI, and that's it. Now, I have this super small pedal board behind me right now that only has 3 pedals on it, and I still can get a ton of sounds. And what I do is I always compress first, always, always, always. There are people that do a different thing. That's fine. I always comp first because I like the way it sounds, and I like sending a really like thick, consistent signal into the octave devices. And then I just set up the chain inside the HX like I would set it up with single pedals. So it's always pitch stuff first, like octave. Then it's followed up by any kind of like fuzz stuff or distortion stuff, overdrive or fuzz. That's followed up by any modulation. And then that's followed up by delay, reverbs, stuff like that is at the end. And that's pretty much all I do. If there's an envelope filter situation involved, that is sandwiched typically between the fuzz, the first fuzz, and then an overdrive, because I love the sound of envelope being fed by fuzz and then be affected at the end by overdrive. So that's it. That's all I do. I mean, honestly, that is all I do. And then I just sort of tweak those parameters to taste. That's it. Forrest Carter asks, do you find it easier to find specific voicings with individual pedals or with a multi-effects pedal? I have a Boss GT1B and it's acceptable for individual voicings, but somewhat difficult to edit individual voice settings. I'm going to take this as a question around like, how easy is it to use a multi-effects processor versus single pedals? I mean, obviously, I think single pedals are easier because the knobs are all there. You're not wading through menus. So I've often said this when people say, ooh, should I get the HX Stomp? It's know thyself. It's about, what do you like to do? Do you like to program? Are you excited about saving presets for different artists or for that set at your church? Or like I play with this hip hop artist I mentioned called Dessa. Every song has a different sound. And so I program my HX to have every single song have a different preset. And I love that. But I wasn't always there. I didn't come out of the womb loving setting up presets, right? I had to learn on single pedals first. So I think the best thing to do is to get single pedals first. And if you want to do a similar thing to what I do, I would just get an octave and a fuzz. Because with just an octave pedal and a fuzz, you can do all that. Like, I mean, I use this sound something like that all the time on records and live. I love that sound. That has a little bit of chorus on it too. And to achieve that, all you would need would be an octave pedal, like the Boss OC5, a fuzz pedal, maybe the Way Huge Pork Loin or Pork and Pickle, and then some kind of chorus like MXR chorus or Boss chorus, and that's it. And that would get you there, right? Now that said, if you have been using a bunch of single pedals and want to do something that's more like streamlined and all in one, and you want to have presets, absolutely get the multi. And I know nothing about that Boss pedal you mentioned, but I do love the HX Stomp. I love the Line 6 platform. I think it does everything really well. Most things really well. Not everything. Most things. Okay, moving on to Brennan. How can I find your content music on Apple Music, etc.? Ooh, yes. That's a great question. I have a playlist called Ian Martin Allison that you can search for on Spotify. I haven't made it on Apple Music, but it is on Spotify. But if you're an Apple Music fan, it's really hard to find. So that's a good thing for me to get on it. So yeah, I will get on that on Apple Music. For now though, if anyone uses Spotify, check out a playlist called Ian Martin Allison. It has all my stuff on it. And I'm frequently posting links to that in my Instagram as well. George Richmond says, do you distort high end, low end, passing through clean? Here's what I do for distortion. Typically with fuzz, I almost always run a fuzz full range. So I'm not running like a clean alongside it. So here is my Clawthorn fuzz. Nope. There it is. this is my Clawthorn fuzz inside the HX. It's actually really low gain at the moment. Now, obviously, you can crank up the gain on that. And any clean that you might be perceiving is probably through this microphone right here, right? But I love that sound. I love the full thing saturated. But with overdrive, I do a slightly different thing. With overdrive, I blend it in a parallel path with clean. So I love overdrive pedals that let you do both. And I use the Tima model inside the HX, and I think I like the sound of that. Now, there's so many ways to get distortion. You can use amp models. I kind of find that I gravitate towards just like a Tube Screamer style overdrive with just a DI. Now, let me just show you this. I can, I'll find an amp sim for you. Okay, so this is an amp simulator that is like an SVT model. And I can put distortion on top of that. And it's cool. It's actually really cool. I use this sound a lot for recording. All inside of the HX Stomp. But live, I find that I don't like to use cabinet or amp sims if I'm already going through an amp. And that's when I will just use my standard overdrive through clean blended. It's more predictable to me. I actually sort of like the direct sound of it. But it doesn't sound like an amp. But, right, it just depends on what you like. So yes, fuzz, I go all the way. I commit, I go all the way. I don't typically clean blend it. But then with overdrive, I run it alongside a clean channel. Yes. Rusty, do you split a clean process signal? If so, how? Rusty just answered it. Andy, Base Experience asks, use a compressor up front, a limiter enhancer. Is a limiter / enhancer okay to give a consistent level as well? Yeah, for sure. I think you might be referring to like that Boss limiter enhancer that they made. I think an enhancer is, actually I don't even know how to explain an enhancer, but a limiter is like just chopping off your peaks. So you're playing something and it's just cutting off the big spiky peaks that you're doing. Whereas a compressor can be a little bit more dynamic and a little more subtle, I think. But yeah, you can, if you have something that you like the sound of, just use it. All good. Johnny Chronics asks, rack mount compressor better than a pedal? Also ratio settings? I don't necessarily think a rack mount comp is better, but I have used like a distressor and those are amazing. In terms of ratio settings, I don't think it really matters. I think I really struggle to hear ratio settings on a compressor. I typically am 4:1, but I don't care. 3:1, 8:1, 10:1. It doesn't matter. I think the threshold matters more. And then, boy, I only really start to hear ratio settings when they're really extreme, like on a snare drum, something that's super transient. Or maybe if you're slapping, then you hear the squash get more intense with a higher ratio. But honestly, I think the threshold control makes so much bigger of a difference. So I would say, don't worry about it. Run it somewhere between 3:1 or 10:1. And I don't even think you'll hear a difference. I don't. In fact, I wish that every compressor control that I had just didn't have a ratio control, that it was fixed. And I don't even really care. Like, I wouldn't even care where it was fixed. 3:1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Who cares? Here we go. Ivan, can you show how to set up your fuzz pedal for the synth sound? Yeah, I think we did that. I think we're good there. Pretty much. Oh, here's what I will say. A fuzz sound with a chorus essentially just turns into a synth. So check it out. Like if I turn on my fuzz and I turn off the chorus, and maybe I'll turn the gain up on this too. now it's pretty low gain. So let me just dive in here. And I'm going to turn the gain up. Okay, right, so that sounds like a fuzz. No clean blend. Immediately a way to make that synthier is adding chorus, adding modulation. It makes it sound like a Moog. So I'm going to do that. Adding chorus. Oh, and all of a sudden, already it just sounds like a synthesizer. Now if you put an octave in front of that, I mean, it's just massive. All that is octave pedal into fuzz. That's the octave pedal inside of the HX into Clawthorn fuzz inside of the HX into 70s chorus. That is all that is happening. And it is such a fun sound. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's all I do. That's it. Someone asks Line 6 HX Stomp versus Line 6 Helix Native. I actually don't have native. Native means you can use the HX Stomp just on your computer. I should probably get it. There's something about I have my pedal board on my desk, and I don't know, there's something about interacting with the knobs that I really like. I'm just sort of lazy though. I probably should get native. How about this? Dirt says, is there a certain order to set up pedals in? Yeah, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You do pitch stuff. I do compression, then I do pitch, then I do dirt, then I do, well, hold on. I do compression, then I do any pitch stuff like octave stuff, then I do fuzz, then I do envelope, if there's any envelope or filter, envelope filter, then I do distortion or overdrive, and then after that is modulation, like chorus, flanger, phaser, any of that stuff. After that, if I'm using any kind of delay or reverb, it happens at the very end. That's how I set it all up. Peter, ooh, this is a great question. Isn't playing with effects distracting? Ending up fiddling endlessly with the settings. Here's what I'll say to you, Peter. It can be so distracting. And sometimes I think I do get distracted doing it. Like when but here's the thing. I'm always working on a goal. I think it is distracting if you don't have a goal. If you're just sort of like having fun, like, hey, let's quote unquote, mess around with some effects. Gag me with a spoon. I don't want it. I don't want to just mess around with effects. I want to be intentional. I want to make music. I want to make something cool with effects. I never just want to like mess around. I'm always aiming for a target. So if I get a piece of music that I'm going to play bass on, immediately I'm like, what should this be? Is it Beach Boys? So should it have spring reverb? Is it rock and roll? Should it have drive and SVT? Is it synthesizer stuff like I do? So it'll have, some combination of octave, fuzz, and chorus. What is it? What am I going for? That, and then it's not distracting. Then it's like a puzzle that you're solving, and it's amazing, actually. Amazing. But if you are aimless, yes, it is distracting. Here we go. Moving on. Found that having a reverb pedal is great. So this is Bourbon Street North. I have found that having a reverb pedal is great. I don't overdo it. I find that it adds a bit of wetness to my sound. Cool. I had someone once tell me that using reverb on bass was bad and it's stupid and that you won't get into any bands if you do it. And that's just wrong. It's patently false. The way I like to use spring reverb, well, I said it. The way I like to use reverb is spring reverb with a bit of tremolo. Not fuzz, though, although that was actually kind of dope. I love this sound. I love it so much. Yeah, here's the thing. All an effect is doing is putting you in a different headspace. I would never play this way if I didn't have this sound on right now. Right? It's giving me a vibe. Whew, I almost just lost myself in that for a minute. So, use the sounds. Like, actually, even though this is a non-question, I love this. I love this statement. I find that adds a bit of, I love having a reverb pedal. I don't overdo it. I find that it adds a bit of wetness to my sound. Here's what I'm getting from this. Do the thing that you want. Do the thing that you like. Is it going to be perfect for every situation? Of course not. You got to have, people skills and emotional intelligence to know when to use your reverb pedal, right? Like, I don't use that sound when I'm playing, Uptown Funk in a wedding band, right? I need to get new references. That one is pretty dusty at this point, but you get what I'm saying. It's about context, but you do need to chase the things that make you happy. That sound that I was just using makes me really happy. And it sounds like the reverb sound that you found makes you happy. And that's cool. That's worth pursuing. Let's see. How about this? Johnny J says, the only pedal I've ever used was an old chorus. What do you recommend for intermediate parentheses hack bassists? Come on, dude, who have never used pedals before. Here's I get this question a ton. What I recommend is actually learning about the pedals that your favorite bass players use or that your favorite bands use. And don't just get the pedals that are kind of like cool. There's always pedals that come into the zeitgeist that are like cool. And people are like, oh, you got to have an octave pedal, or, oh, you've got to have an overdrive, or, oh, you've got to have the Noble DI, or, there's always, and those are all really great pedals, but it just depends on what sounds you want to make. So I always just say, I shoot back always with this question and say, buy the thing that you are excited about. Is that distortion? Is it fuzz? Is it octave? Now, if you don't know what all those things are, go on Amazon and buy the cheapest like Behringer versions of that and just get acquainted. Like, you can probably buy 5 pedals that Behringer makes for the price of one and just get acquainted and then sell them if you don't like them or whatever, and then get better versions down the line. This is just vocabulary. There's no shortcut with any of this stuff. I can't say, ooh, here's what's going to be perfect for you, X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z, depending on where you're from, right? It's about you. It's about what you want. I started with a weird multi-effects thing that had chorus and compression and EQ. I couldn't even hear what the compression was doing. I thought chorus was okay. The EQ sucked. And I was like, this pedal's stupid. And it wasn't until I found an octave pedal that I was like, oh, like I found an octave pedal made by EBS. It was the first like standalone pedal that I bought. And I played. Right? And it was amazing. It was an amazing day to find the octave pedal. But that's because I liked Peter Gabriel and I liked Sledgehammer and I liked Bjork. And I would find that I would play these, sort of like synthy sounds if I just turned on the octave pedal and then turned off all the treble, like rolled all the tone off of my bass and just played really lightly. I found that I would get these amazing trunk rattling notes. And I was like, oh, this is a whole new world. And I could probably be pretty happy just playing octave pedal for the rest of my life. But I can't say that you would. Maybe you hear that and you're like, ugh, yuck, I don't like that. It depends. You got to do some research. You got to just hit that Google. What, you love Muse? What does he use? You love Royal Blood? What does he use? You love Michelle Indegliocello? What does she use? Right? You got to find out. And it's a huge journey, and be patient and enjoy the process. Hey, check this out. I just saw some dumb quote. It wasn't dumb, but I felt propelled to say that it was dumb because it was, I don't know, I can't even remember who it was, but it's sort of like a spiritual guru. It was like, what is the meaning of life? And he said, I'll put it to you in 5 simple words: enjoying the passage of time. Ready for that again? I wish I'd come up with this. I should probably give credit. I can't remember his name. But he's like a bass player / sort of spiritual guru guy, plays in a metal band, does twirls on stage, throws his bass around. And he said, probably some of you are going to know who I'm talking about. He says, to answer the question, what is the meaning of life? It is enjoying the passage of time. Now, I don't know if that's right, but it was pretty resonant to me. I think that so often we want things so fast. We want things to be easy. We want shortcuts. We want hacks. Hell, we even sell that kind of language here at SBL. Like, what's the shortcut? What's the 5 things you need to know? And there is some of that I believe in. I do think there are best practices. I do think there are quote unquote hacks for like getting to the meat of something quicker. I do believe in that, but I also believe in the process. I really do believe in ordering a bunch of pedals, deciding what you like, sending them back. Not like, oh, I'm going to make one decision and it's going to be the perfect decision. I'm going to research all the pedals and ask all the right questions. And then when I pull that trigger, it's going to be the right thing. It won't be. It won't be. You know why? Because your tastes will change. And you'll start to like new music and you'll get inspired by other things and you'll want to try other things out. And that's okay. It's all good. You have to just enjoy that process. Enjoy the passage of time. Enjoy how long it takes you to find a sound that you love. Now, I mean, I'm 43, and so, maybe I'm just speaking to myself. I remember feeling impatient when I was younger, in my 20s. I remember feeling like, I want this shit now. Like, I want it now. I want to be good now, right? But really, the secret to happiness is enjoying the process. Enjoying the passage of time. I really do believe it, I think. I just saw it today. But it really did encapsulate a lot of things that I felt. I've talked a lot about enjoying the process, right? Be patient. Don't want things too fast. Enjoy the process. You're never going to get there. The reason that like Tom Morello is Tom Morello is because he has used the same pedal board forever and continuously finds new sounds and new delights in it. Amazing. The great Prince from my from my college town and beyond, Minneapolis, once said, I've been to the mountaintop. There's nothing there. How about that? I've been to the mountaintop. There's nothing there. There's nothing. When you find the thing that you're looking for, it sucks. It's over. That's why I want to say to Bono, he's like, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I'm like, good. It's the journey. It's the process. Enjoy that process. Whoa. I think that was like way too intense of an answer to like, what do you recommend for bassists who've never used pedals before? All right, moving on to Broadway Joe, who asks, I'm doubling my bass lines on synth bass. Can I do better with pedals? Wow, Broadway Joe. Hey, not necessarily. Here's the deal. It's so wild to me that people ask me this because I came to the pedal thing because I'm bad at synth bass. I just want to be a synth bass player, right? Like I have a Moog, a little fatty, and I was like, I'll learn this in an afternoon. And then I realized, shit, it'll take me my whole life. So listen, I think that it's very cool to play key bass. I think it's just different. Key bass is more, it's cleaner. Like the cutoffs are really clean. There's something kind of ratty and mean and ugly about playing it with pedals, right? Like when you're playing a sound like this, what a synth can't do is all this, and like that moment, but before the note. No, a synth can do this, but it can't really do this. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not always appropriate for there to be that extra grit and texture. Again, it's just context, right? I feel like this whole podcast, I could be like, it depends. And then the end. Hey guy, it depends. The end. But like, it really does. So you have to ask yourself, do you want it to be big and mean and kind of leaning rock and roll synth world? Kind of Jack White Stripes vibes? Because that's the stuff, I guess, that I don't know. I guess I lean toward. I mean, I have stuff that's tighter than that, I suppose, but I'm embracing the grit of the electric bass. I dig it, man. But it's not always the right thing. Now, if I'm playing like this would be horrible. It's not tight enough. The Moog would kill that. So what I would do to get close to that, and, I would just try to maybe a pick, I get rid of the fuzz. But it still sounds like an electric bass with an octave pedal. So, That would be a better bass line. That would be way cooler on a Moog, probably. But a Moog can't go, right? I don't know. Just totally depends on what you want to do. Rich Mo says, do you use the HX Stomp in live performances? Yeah, yes, I do. Every live performance, I use it. How about this? Let's see. Let's keep going. Yeah, someone is asking, like, is moving to a Fractal FM3 the right move? And, you know, let me just say this. Let me just broaden that out to, like, is moving to any multi-effects platform the right move? It just depends. It depends. Hey, guy, it depends. Roll the credits. Hey, guy, it totally depends. Boo-doo-doo-doo. Hey, guy, it totally depends. I mean, it's like, what do you want? I have no idea. I don't know what your gig is, right? That's Mark who's asking Fractal FM3. Here's what the right move is. Using a platform that you like. And so if you've never done one, jump into the one that excites you the most. Jump into the one that the interface looks cool. I think the Neural DSP stuff looks amazing. I just don't know it. I came up a Line 6 fanboy. I've tried to ditch it a bunch of times. I have tried to ditch it. They have never, like, we've never worked together on anything. And I'm like, you know, it would actually, you know, Neural DSPs reached out. I'm like, might be cool to do something with a company that like would be interested in working with me. And yet I come back like a begging X to the Line 6 because it's just a platform that I know. So if you don't know a platform, pick. Maybe it's Fractal. I don't know, man. I think the Neural stuff is really exciting looking. But if you're trying to make a move, I don't know. I'm a fan of sticking with the thing that you know, because you're going to be able to pull sounds up quick. Let's see. How about this? I think we're probably pretty good on effects questions. Let's see. Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to this. Let's move on to some questions. So all those questions were questions that I hadn't answered from my effects seminar. So that was very effect heavy, right? So let me move on to some other questions that we got during the VIP that are probably just a little bit more varied. So check this out. Someone is asking about my PEG video. I did a video for, and these I don't have the names on, so I won't be able to say the names, but this person says, hey, Ian, your PEG video was killer. How did you match Chuck Rainey's tone so closely? Thanks. So what I do, I could answer this question for a whole hour. When I think about transcription, and the video he's referring to is I do a series for SBL called The Greatest Bassline Ever? ? Where I go through bass lines that I think are amazing, modern and new, and I always piss off people with the new ones. And then I make, you know, old guys like me happy when I talk about Chuck Rainey or, you know, Jackson 5 or whatever, right? But when I talk about Charlie Puth and Dua Lipa, people are like, oh, they come out with the pitchforks. But it's all good, dude. It's all good, because guess what? We're going to give you both. We're going to give you both. At SBL, you're going to get a little old, little new, maybe hope to broaden those horizons a little bit, no matter where you sort of lie on the, like, I only like new pop music, or like music hasn't been good since the 70s, you know, or there's that spectrum, right? Wherever you lie on that spectrum, we're going to have something for you. But I did a video on Chuck Rainey for his tune. Well, it's not his tune, a tune he played on called Peg for Steely Dan, which if you haven't checked out, please check out the video. And I use my old jazz bass with flats, and that's not what he used. I think he used a P bass with flats. But what I do when I listen to a song is I try to think about the sound, not just the notes. But I mean, obviously, this bass is the wrong bass to use. But even if I were going to use like this Lakeland with round wounds as jazz bass, what I would do for Chuck Rainey is I listen, and it sounds dark. And it sounds like a P bass, maybe with flats or like really old round wound strings. So in that case, on a jazz bass, I'm turning the bridge pickup off, and then I'm turning down the tone a bit, like quite a bit. And then, oops, no octaver. Let's see. I'm doing something like that, right? So instead of just thinking about like, oh, well, I'm just going to play Chuck Rainey's bass line like this. It sounds like Geddy Lee or something, or like, I don't know, just a bad version of Chuck Rainey. I am really thinking about transcription more as also getting the sound. So which to me involves really trying to modify how I play. He does all these cool ghost notes too. So for me, like playing Back by the Bridge, but using the neck pickup. Now, a lot of people would kind of think like, wow, playing Back by the Bridge, you should use the bridge pickup. But that doesn't sound anything like Chuck Rainey, and that's fine. But when I was doing that video, that's all I did really. But I had a bass with flat wounds, but I played, I think, sort of close-ish to the bridge. And then I used the neck pickup on the bass and rolled the tone off. But every song that I work on, I try to kind of get close to the sound, whether that's with an effect or with just my hands and the controls on the bass. But frequently I'm moving my hands around and I'm adjusting the controls on the bass to really favor, you know, like a jazz bass has three things, right? It can do the Marcus Miller, like both pickups on kind of vibe. It can do a neck pickup, sort of sounds like a P bass, or it can do the bridge pickup thing, which is Jocko, right? Oh man, I haven't shedded that in a while. But right, like all that stuff, right? So I just find a jazz bass to be so versatile. I can get so many sounds out of it. I know it so well, but it's really like three sounds to me. It's like P bass-esque on the neck pickup. Both pickups on full is like Geddy Lee or like Marcus Miller, like depending on if you lean slap or like rock and roll. And then bridge pickup is that Jocko thing. And then kind of, you know, then there's shades of it all in between, but that's how I think about it. Couple more here. How about this? I like this question. Ian, do you ever experiment with ambient, modular style effects for bass? Thinking a la Yannick Wisdala or Zachary Reiser. Oh, both of those guys I really like. Zachary Reiser, man, what a fun hip. Hey, if you don't know Zachary Reiser, he has all these great videos on YouTube of going through pedals, and I've learned so much from watching his channel. Yannick also, man, I've learned a lot watching his channel. I have never been compelled by like Yannick's sound or his records necessarily, but I really do like his process. I like how much he likes the bass. Honestly, my favorite thing about Yannick, everybody's like, oh, Yannick is such a killer player, and oh, he's such a beast, and, you know, Brecker solos, and I'm like, yeah. But I don't care about any of that. For me, it doesn't matter. It's just like, it doesn't matter to me at all. The thing that I love about Yannick is his dedication to the instrument. And back when he was doing those vlog videos, man, I was inspired by that. And again, not by his practicing and not by his playing and his sound. It's not what I go for. It's very different than what I go for. But I was really inspired by like how much of him he was. I like the commitments he made, even though they weren't going to be my commitments. It's like it gave me permission to do my own thing. Like he was so into his own thing. Like that baby elephant sound he uses, I don't like that sound at all. But I'm like, what could be my baby elephant? Like, what could be something that I use and really like? And he might not like that. And that's fine, dude. Grown men like different things. We all have different things we like. It's all good. But I think that, like, I think, what are you asking? Like, ambient modular style effects for bass. So I don't love the, like, loopy thing. For me, like I've never been like, oh, I'm going to play percussion on the bass and get like a loop going and then play stuff over the top of that. I've never really just enjoyed that sound or process. But that said, I mean, when I hear other people do it, I'm like, I should just be truthful. I don't really like it. When I hear other people do it, it doesn't make me like it more, but it makes me go, I wonder if there's a way that I could do that where I would like it. And so for me, something that I've done is I have a sound in the HX called Tessellator, which is just a delay sound. And what you can do is you can play, let's see, play a chord into it, and then it just loops it. Listen to that. Now, to me, I would treat more of this sort of looping thing more like a drone. I would have that be the constant. Right? So, I mean, again, I could just get lost in that, but that's just sort of a very simple version of what the real monsters like Ionic do. Like Ionic uses it to build all these, you know, like loops and percussive things and playing over the top. I just have never been compelled to that degree. I guess I do like, though, this idea of like letting a static thing play. I'm using this more like a Electro-Harmonix freeze pedal, which is a pedal where like you step on it and it will play, you know, plays a snippet of the thing you play. The Tessellator does that too. I have it set to play whatever I play, it plays it forward and backward in a weird loop, an octave higher. I think it's really cool. So if I played a C, you know, it has that. Now if I turn it off and I play a D, it'll grab that. Now if I turn it off and play an E, it'll grab that. So I just don't have it on a foot switch right now, or it would be easier to actually like play live with. But that said, I mean, I would experiment with it. I think I would just do it differently than those like looper folks. But you know, honestly, maybe playing some ambient music would be really fun for me. I got pretty excited when I just played that little bit just a second ago. But I like it as just a drone. I like more simple. I want it to be simple, like very simple, like cinematic and super simple. And not too many layers. I guess when I hear stuff where there's like tons of layers, I'm kind of like, it kind of feels odd to me. It's just not the vibe that I go for. Okay, how about this? Oh, this is great. How about let's maybe do a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up. Question: how have you been enjoying your ding wall? Any dangers of you becoming a multi-scale convert? So check it out. I don't have that ding wall anymore, actually. They sent that to me for a video. Oh, man. It was so cool, and it was so fleeting, and I should have known. But Nick Wells, who does the artist stuff for Dingwall, asked for me to send it away because they were going to get it in the hands of Chris Wustenholm from Muse. Which was crazy. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. But man, I loved it. Now, here's the thing. I wouldn't become a convert. The thing for me is like, I feel really at home on a jazz bass. That's always the thing that's going to be me, I think, more or less. But then all the other basses, all the other iconic thumbprint basses, like a Starfire, a Hofner, a P-bass, I'm looking around, a Rickenbacker, right? A fretless, a Spectre NS2, a Bass 6. All those things to me are more like tools. Then I'm using them for very specific things to get like a really specific sonic goal, or like note shape, the shape and sound of a note. I am really particular about the bass I use on sessions for that kind of thing. If someone's like, oh, it's going to be kind of Beatles, like I'm going to bring my Hofner. But that Dingwall was amazing in some of the like rock. I did a couple of hard rock sessions recently, and it was fucking awesome. It was so good, and just the clarity down low. So yeah, I need one. I gotta have one. And so whatever, I'm going to figure out how to get one. sending it away was brutal. And I still sort of feel like it's probably just in a case over there, but it's not, it's gone. So not a convert, but I would definitely use it as a tool. And they're not difficult to play. People are like, oh, is it weird to play? It's not that weird to play. It's a little weird once you get past the 12th fret because stuff starts to angle backwards, but your hand kind of does too. I mean, I'm not, like if I go up the neck on a regular bass, I'm not getting to here and playing. I am kind of doing this. Well, maybe I'm saying the opposite thing of what I mean right now. I'm not going to edit it out. You know why? Because we keeps it real at SBL. We keeps it real. Look, it's not that hard to play a multi-scale. It's all good. If you're compelled, get one. They're amazing. They're amazing. Okay, cool. I think we are so close. I think we're so close. There's a couple more questions here. Okay, how about this? Last one. From Liam, I have a vocal and bass duet, and it works so well until I get to solo sections. Any tips for soloing while also holding down the chords? From Liam. Here's the thing. This is the last thing I want to say for this episode. Don't worry about soloing in that context. Worry about holding it down. Or maybe making a solo so simple. Like, let's say you have a tune. Like, I do a bunch of duos, not a bunch, but I do some duo stuff. I don't want to oversell it. And what I use this sound a lot in that context, right? So let's say there's a song that's going. Maybe that's just it. Maybe it's going from so all I'm doing is I'm going from an E major to a D major to an A major. That is enough right there for a song. What I do is when the vocalist comes in, I play way softer. The vocalist is never me, by the way, FYI, but I play way soft. And then honestly, like if it breaks open, so let's say the phrase finishes, you could play. But I think what you have to do is continue to outline the chords. What would be the wrong thing? Okay, right, here's our song. Here's the wrong thing. Now here's my solo. That was all pentatonic and scale licks with no space. And how lame did that sound? It sounds so lame, right? So like, think about the song. And then instead of thinking about it as a solo, just think about it as an interlude. That's what I'd say. I mean, that took me a second to get there, but like if I'm playing an E, I'll just play a third up top. Here's a D with a third. Here's an A with a third. That alone would be a cool solo moment. Here's the end of our phrase. Here's our solo. I'm going to refine it a little bit. And then that had a bit of a, dramatic arc to it, and then it got soft and came down. Would be a great cue for the vocalist to come back in. So don't worry about playing a solo. Actually worry about holding it down and play something a little different. All I did was just play chord tones. I was playing the root and then a melody note on top. The great Bill Frisell says all you need is a root and a melody note. So no matter what you're playing, if you have a root down low, that's all you need. That is all you need. Hey, this was really fun for me. Hopefully I'm not, now waking you up from your slumber. Thanks so much for asking all these great questions. We got through absolutely most of them. I really appreciate it. And listen, if you have any follow-ups that you want to ask me, I am available on the campus at Scott's Bass Lessons. I am also very available at Ian Martin Allison on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. Your boy's on TikTok if you want to hit me up there as well. But I get a lot of DMs from this community, this amazing community, at Instagram, and I'd be happy to answer you. So, hey, thank you so much for being a part of this. See you in the next one.